Chairman, dear Mr. Iacolino, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to present you here today some of the key findings of the analysis and findings on the state of the drugs problem we have made throughout the last year. I think we can really say that today we again provide you with a detailed assessment of the latest situation in the 27 EU member states, but also with information on Croatia, Turkey and Norway. Our annual reporting package launched today includes, besides the annual report itself, a statistical bulletin that contains extensive additional data and analysis. And we are also releasing today supplementary reports on some issues of particular policy interest. And these contain an analysis of the outcome from sentencing practice across Europe, a review of different patterns of and responses to polydrug use, and a report on recently available synthetic cannabis products. Obviously, I only have the time here to give you a flavor of some highlights, but please take a look on our website and you will find it provides you easy access to all the details of these different issues I'm mentioning today, or I will present you today. But before I begin, I have to say, because I think it's really important, that our reporting is based upon a close dialogue with experts across Europe. Each year with them, we also produce detailed country situation summaries to explore the national dimensions of the drugs issue. Our report is therefore very much a collective endeavor, and I particularly acknowledge the contribution made by our network of national RATOX focal points. But moving now to my update on drug trends in Europe. Much of what I have to say today builds on the analysis I provided you with last year, at least for the most commonly used drugs. Overall, I think it is fair to say that Europe appears to be in a relatively stable situation as regards drug use, but with levels of consumption remaining quite high. Disappointingly, there is little to suggest any significant recent improvement regarding the use of cocaine and heroin, two drugs that we are particularly interested in because of their considerable potential to impact negatively on public health and public safety. Let me start by talking about cocaine. We estimate that 4 million adults, concentrated mainly in Western Europe, have used the drug last year. Recent surveys still show overall a stable or still rising trend, and we remain concerned about the potential of this drug to diffuse further across Europe, and there are some indications for this. We have seen first examples of major seizures of cocaine in Eastern European countries, and the use of the drug being reported in some of the nightlife settings in this region. This is a situation we are monitoring carefully, and the EMCDDA and Europol are preparing a joint analysis of the cocaine market to explore current developments in detail. There are some 1.5 million opioid users in the EU and Norway, and most of these are heroin users. Also, we are not seeing an epidemic spread of new cases. There is evidence that recruitment into heroin use is still occurring, and that the overall problem is therefore not diminishing. We have, for example, seen an increase in new treatment demands in some countries, as well as increases in the number of drug-related deaths, which are predominantly linked to heroin use. The number of heroin seizures in the EU has also been increasing, and we have seen in Turkey, an important transit country to the EU for heroin, that the volume of heroin seized has increased from 2.7 tons in 2002 to 13.2 tons in 2007, 5 times as much. Taken together, these data suggest that it would be wrong to view Europe's heroin problem as a thing of the past. We need to continue to invest in prevention, treatment and harm reduction interventions, and we also need to ensure that we are aware if the use of this drug is beginning to spread again in young and particularly vulnerable populations. Europe's appetite for cannabis remains considerable, if I may say so. At least 74 million of our citizens have ever used the drug. That's nearly a quarter of the adult population. And an estimated 23 million adults have used the drug in the last year. However, some grounds for optimism can be found in recent data on cannabis use trends. While most countries saw marked increases in use through the 90s and the early 2000s, we can now talk confidently about the growing evidence of a decline in popularity of this drug, especially notable in some younger age groups. This conclusion is strongly supported by the latest round of data collection on drug use among school children in Europe, which now provides us with a good window to analyze long-term trends in the important 15-16-year-old age group. In this data set, also rises are still reported in a few Central and Eastern European countries. The overall picture is one of increasing stabilization, with decreases seen in a growing number of countries. Interestingly, this development is not restricted to the European Union. We see also decreases in the United States and in Australia. When thinking about trends in cannabis use, we need to be particularly sensitive to trends in regular and intensive use, which may not necessarily mirror the overall picture which I just gave you. Up to 2.5% of all young Europeans, means 3 million of the younger than 35-year-olds, mostly young men, could be using cannabis on a daily basis, and this obviously represents a large population at risk. We have seen a recent leveling off in cannabis-related treatment demands in Europe, but it is unclear if this reflects levels of need or a lack of service availability. There is, however, a growing awareness that cannabis users may require a range of prevention and treatment interventions, and we are seeing some interesting and innovative approaches developing in response to this. For example, engaging with young people using cannabis can be difficult, and one approach that has been developed to address this problem is the use of the internet to provide an online information and self-help service exploiting a medium that most young people feel comfortable with. The problems I have addressed up to now have been the traditional ones, the ones we are used to talking about in Europe. Let me now turn the attention to how new developments challenge existing policies and practice.